Take two. See, I'll contribute. Books.
Thank you.
Books, libraries.
Libraries.
More books.
Okay, take two. Because I did film this video yesterday, an hour and a half I was speaking for. My throat got really dry and worn out. I got to speaking about my second book and then flatline. Hi everyone, I'm Sarah and today's video is going to be my best books of 2023 and my 2024 goals. This is take two. I spoke for an hour and a half yesterday filming this and it was getting dark, and when I came back to check my footage it only recorded like 20 minutes. I could have cried, I didn't. I slept on it and I'm back today to talk to you about my best books of 2023. I have 10 books all in all and 3 of them were rereads. So we're going to get to the rereads first. We're going to start with 11/22/63. This is completely different to any other Stephen King book. He mainly writes horror. If you're not into horror or you're not into Stephen King typically, I would still recommend picking this up. It's based around time travel and basically our main character Jake Eppin goes back in time to essentially stop the assassination of John F. Kennedy. This story is a lot more than that. He goes back multiple times. He can go back and it'll be like he never went anywhere. When he comes back to reality, it's always been 2 minutes. For some reason, that's just how it works. So nobody will realise that he's gone anywhere, even if he's in this era. So he doesn't go straight back to this date. It's like a few years or something before this date, so he has to live there for a while before the assassination. So he has to build a life, he has to get a job, he has to make connections and blend into this world that he quite clearly is not from. That whole part of the story I really loved. The writing in this is just beautiful. This honestly is a masterpiece and I would recommend it to near enough anyone. It's so beautiful. It does have references to some of his other books, some of his horror books, but I wouldn't say you need to know what those books are about if you're not interested. The whole story in itself of 11/22/63 is just beautiful and worth a read. My next 2 rereads probably need no explanation, but we'll quickly go through them anyway. My next favourite reread was A Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin. A Song of Ice and Fire is a difficult one for me. I immediately loved this first book when I first read it, and I loved it the second time I read it, clearly. My problem with this series, this is meant to be my best of. This is honestly one of my favourite books ever, but the series in itself, the second book I do not like. It's very political and it's just not for me, and I know the series as a whole is quite political. This first book really starts out and makes you feel like it's going to be more fantastical than I think it ever is as it goes on, and this was kind of what I was hoping from the whole series. I am rereading the series at the minute and the second book was a letdown first and second time round. I'm on the 3rd book now, haven't started it yet. Hopefully it picks back up again and I do enjoy it. If I've reread the full series again and it doesn't work for me, then I'll just be keeping this book. I still hold up to the fact that this is an amazing first in a series. That's all I have to say about this book. It's an amazing first start in the series. Unfortunately, I think I'm just let down with the rest of the series after this. My back is already hurting. Oh, I'm such an old lady. The last reread of this section is Twilight by Stephanie Meyer. If you've watched my first video, you know I still reread this and love it. It's the series that got me properly into reading and I haven't stopped reading ever since I picked this up. I still love the movie adaptation, and it follows a girl named Bella and she moves in with her father in a place called Forks. For some reason I keep thinking I'm saying Forks wrong and I don't know why. I did this yesterday when I was initially filming. I sat for about 5 minutes like Forks? It's a very quaint and quiet. Not very many people live there. She starts going to school, and where she goes to school there's a family of vampires. They are the Cullen family. She falls in love with one of the vampires, Edward, and from there there's bad people, there's rules against certain stuff with vampires and humans, there's people that are trying to stop them, there's jealousy, and it's very teen angsty, very fun. I just think it was so well done for a young adult fiction. I'm obsessed, honestly. I am so obsessed. obsessed. What more can I say about Twilight, really? It's such a fun ride. I love it. I think the casting was really well done in the films as well. I'm a diehard fan, and Edward, Team Edward. Just so we have that right. Okay, so getting on to brand new reads that I read in 2023. We're going to start with the mangas. First up, we have Alice in Borderland. Is that the right way? Yeah. It's because it has like an upside down situation. It's meant to be representing playing cards. It confused me. First manga on this list is Alice in Borderland by Haro Asu. I apologise for that butchery. Yeah, I haven't got this the right way. There we go. I was going to say, I was reading the author's name upside down. That probably didn't help. I picked this manga up especially because I watched the TV series adaptation of it first before I found out it was a manga series. And I watched it when Squid Game was out. I don't know if they were out around about the same time, but that's when I was watching them both. And I don't think Alice in Borderland got the hype it deserved compared to Squid Game. I still really enjoy Squid Game and I get it, but Alice in Borderland is on par if not better. I would say it takes a darker turn. It's a lot more graphic. When I finished that series, I was like longing for more, and obviously I knew it was a manga series and I wanted to give them a go. And I will say they're very on point. The TV adaptation have done an amazing job at adapting this manga series. The artwork in this is really cool. I always find mangas really hard to get into. I don't think usually in the first volume that they give a lot away or get you right into the story. It takes a few volumes for it to get going and to know if you're really going to like it or not, which is so hard because of how expensive they are. So I am quite hesitant when it comes to buying mangas. I was quietly confident about Alice in Borderland because of the TV show adaptation, and I was right. This is actually 2 volumes in one as well. Like, these editions are 2 volumes in one, so that I think that made things a bit better. It kicks off straight away and I love the characters in this story. We follow Aritsu. He is a young lad who's going to school and he's not having the best time with school in life. He's kind of just bored and giving up. He would love to just be somewhere else. Then he kind of gets what he wishes for. There's a big like firework display and everyone is kind of shocked and mesmerised because it's just happening in the middle of where they're living. Some of the people there are teleported to this place named Borderland, and there they basically have to fight for their survival, and by doing that they have to play games that are set up very strategically. They're very clever games, and that's what I love so much about them. You have to have wits and like different talents. Like, different people will excel more at different games because of their talents, and some of them you have to work as a team, some of them you have to betray people. You have a time limit when you're in Borderland to get these games, not to get the games done, but when you enter Borderland it will say like you have 7 days until you expire and then you're essentially executed. It's say you enter Borderland and it says you've got 7 days left. You have to enter a game, participate in a game and win the game to add more time to your lifespan so you can survive. So if you have an hour left, you have to go find a game and win that game before your time runs out. It's very clever. The games are very clever. The characters, some of my favourite characters. I'm obsessed with this cast, and I think the casting for the TV show was perfect. The artwork, I can be put off with mangas if the art style isn't for me very easily, but I love the artwork in this manga. The next and the last manga on this list is Bleach, Volume 1. I didn't expect this. This was so surprising to me. I basically picked this up, and I don't think I would have ever picked this up if it wasn't for James. I picked it up for him because he loves it and he had the first 4 volumes. So they were already sat there on his bookcase. I've now stole them and put them on my bookcase. He loved the series. He loves the anime. He loves the manga. And he already had them, so I thought I'll give them a go, but I really didn't expect to like it. Straight off from the front cover, it looked very young, and I have recently found out that this is a young adult series. I have nothing against young adult books, but 1, artwork matters, and I think because it looked young, I was kind of put off a little. And 2, young adult just doesn't always work for me. I do want to read more young adult in 2024, but we'll get to that. Sometimes it doesn't work for me. And the art style itself looked young. Like I said, I was hesitant to go into it, basically. Like I said, when I was talking about Alice in Borderland, I find mangas are very hard to get into from volume 1. This volume was so easy to get into. This got 5 out of 5 stars, like straight up. I was so amazed about how they got you to connect with the characters straight away. Sorry, he got you to connect. Tide Kubo, probably mispronounced that as well. I do apologise. I was connected to the characters straight away. I love these characters, and the art style grew on me, to be fair. And I've been left to feel rather sad throughout many volumes of this series. This is such a well done series. I'm on like book 12. I have only disliked like one book so far, and if you've read the series, you probably understand why. There's like little off-topic intervals that are just like random parts of the story, and James told me like that does happen through the series. A lot of people don't like those ones. I hated it. I hated it so much. I hated the character it followed, but once we're on with the main story, it's just perfect. I love it so much. And like I said, mangas are expensive, so I'm trying to get to a few every month kind of gradually and just getting a few here and there. We follow Ichigo, and Ichigo can talk to ghosts. And then he meets Rukia, who is a Soul Reaper. I've asked James to explain what Soul Reapers are, because I don't know how to explain that. And he basically said that like Soul Reapers help souls, spirits move on, but they can also turn into like hollows, which are more evil entities, I guess. And they get in a battle with a hollow. To help Ichigo, Rukia tries to lend some of her power to him so she can help him and help him save his family, essentially. When Rukia lends Ichigo some of her powers, he kind of ends up taking all of her powers accidentally, but it happens. And then Rukia is left with no powers, and now Ichigo is like a big, powerful boy. I don't know the ages of these people, but they're in school. Yeah, Ichigo is much more powerful, and it follows from there. And it's just so beautiful. Rukia is one of my favourite characters. She's so cool, and I think she's great. It's so well done, and I actually really like the art style now, and it's fun. And the humour in this book, I'm sorry, but I'm not a humour person. Like in books, I hate humour. I've laughed at this book. I've laughed at multiple volumes of this series. Like, I don't know what they've done to me. Now we're going to go into the full-length novels that I read in 2023 that are brand new to me and have made it to my favourites. So first up is Bands of Mourning by Brandon Sanderson. I can't say much about this book specifically. There's Mistborn Era 1, which I absolutely loved, and if you've watched my first video, you'll have heard me say that I think The Final Empire was the first ever adult fantasy book that I'd ever read. I don't know, Game of Thrones might have been first, so I could truly be lying. I think it was. But I think for like, on terms of the extent of fantasy, The Final Empire really took it up a notch for me, and it was really intimidating. I ended up loving it. I loved that first era. And then there's Mistborn Era 2, which we follow Wax and Wayne, who have been partners, and they partner up again, and we follow them, and their character dynamics are amazing. Their relationships just amazing. They're very fun characters to follow. Mistborn Era 2 is set 300 years after the events of Mistborn Era 1. So Mistborn Era 1, there's characters in there that are like part of history and a part of religion, and then we follow Mistborn Era 2. And the Mistborn universe is basically, the magic system is that people can use their abilities and their power by using metals. In Mistborn Era 2, Wax and Wayne are both rare twinborns, which means they have a mix of two special abilities. I genuinely believe Mistborn Era 2 is better than Mistborn Era 1. I said it again, humour doesn't work in books for me. Mistborn Era 2 is a less serious era than Mistborn Era 1 was, and I had the time of my life. I had so much fun. I had fun with Wax and Wayne, and there's a character named Steris. She's probably one of my favourite characters of all time. Steris is just so relatable. She's quite an anxious girl who gets a lot of character growth and character development, and she's great. But yeah, much more humorous series, still a lot of serious things happen in it. It's a much more modern take on the magic system that happens in Mistborn Era 1. It's really fun, definitely recommend it. If you haven't tried Brandon Sanderson before or fantasy and you want a Wayne, I would start with Mistborn Era 1. With this last stack of books, I've started with books that aren't that surprising to me that I gave 5 stars. So we're going to follow that with After That Night by Karen Slaughter. This is the 11th book in the Will Trent series. It's a detective series. It's very graphic and gory, but it's really well done. Karen Slaughter's writing is amazing. It's really strong, and her research is great. I just couldn't fault Karen Slaughter at this point. And this is, like I said, the 11th book in the series, and she is still holding strong. When I get so far into a series, I find that there's some really big flops. 11 books in, she's given me 5 stars. I really couldn't recommend her more if you are a thriller lover, as long as you can stand the graphic, gory stuff. And I mean graphic. I can stand graphic. I like graphic in my books, but I think she keeps in touch with reality. Sometimes you read thrillers and it's like a bit fun and entertaining, and it's like, I don't know how to put it, but this is real life stuff. This series is like, this could happen, and it could be this graphic, and it could be this harsh, and it's really dark. So yeah, keep that in mind if you do go into the series. The book before this was a 5 stars, so I am surprised that she followed with another 5 star for me, but I'm not surprised at the same time because it's Karen Slaughter. She very rarely misses for me. The 10th book in the series, like I say, got a 5 star from me, but it was 5 star because it was so thrilling and so entertaining and so like, oh my god, like that was top tier writing. That was amazing. This book was more of a 5 star because it made so much sense. It wasn't the thrill seeking book that number 10 was, but it was just so perfect. It was like, I totally get why you did that. There was character development, and in book 11 I'm like, you've got to move your characters on, especially your main characters. Things need to be happening, and this was just, it was like, yes, it was perfect timing. It was so well done for this to follow after book 10. Truly amazing. Honestly, couldn't recommend this author enough for thriller lovers. Now we're getting into the books that are the most surprising that are on this list, and we're going to start off with Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. This is so surprising because this is a classic, and nothing against classics, I just find them a lot harder to read, although I believe there's 2 classics on this list, so who am I to say that classics are hard to read? But I have struggled with classics in the past. Something about their writing is just harder to get through. I still want to read more classics because I've been proven wrong when I picked this one up. I really didn't know much about it. I think me and my sister-in-law started buddy reading this together. I think she DNF'd it. We wanted to read it because we found out it was like a mystery classic. So cool, great, that's what we're into. So I started this book and I was immediately hooked with the writing. It was so beautiful, it was so atmospheric. I got really into this book from the start and I was hooked and couldn't put it down. I loved everything about this book. I do think sometime near the end it got a little bit unrealistic, a little bit silly, but I didn't mind. I had so much fun with it, and I totally get why it's so loved for this to be written in, I think it was the 30s. Amazing. I've probably started at the best of her books, but I do want to read more by her and give her a shot because I was seriously blown away by this. This book follows a widow named, what's his name? It's something De Winter, Max De Winter, and he finds this new relationship, and the story then goes on with like a lumen effect of Rebecca, who is his ex-wife who died. There's just something about that is just so thrilling. I just had so much fun with that. I didn't expect it with the title of the book being Rebecca. I really thought we were just going to follow a main character named Rebecca, but her being kind of this lumen entity, this shadow over their lives, was so much more fun. I had a lot of fun and I can't wait to reread this one. Second to last, we're on number 9. Skyward takes the number 9 spot. Also, yeah, I've told you kind of how I've ordered these. These are not in the order of least to most favourite out of them, or most to least favourite, apart from number 1 or number 10, however you like to see this. The last book I'm going to mention is my favourite book of 2023 and one of my favourite books of all time. But we're talking about Skyward. And Skyward by Brandon Sanderson is another one that really surprised me. I love Brandon Sanderson, so it shouldn't have been that surprising. But this is a young adult sci-fi. Again, young adult, very hit or miss for me. Sci-fi hasn't usually worked out for me unless it's something like 11/22/63, but sci-fi where it comes to where it's talking about space and aliens, that kind of thing, hasn't worked out for me until this book. Skyward is such a strong first book in a series. I was so obsessed with it. Another one that I just had to keep reading. The way Sanderson set up this world and described the things in this world and out of the world were truly amazing. It was so heartfelt. I really loved Spencer as our main character. Yeah, 10 out of 10. Like, I would be so happy if I was a teenager reading this. As an adult, I find this amazing, but I would really recommend this to like the younger audience too. This would be so much fun. Are you kidding me? We follow Spencer and her world has been like under attack for years by an alien race named the Krell, and she wants to learn to be a pilot to help her world. Her father was a pilot. He was known to have turned on his team, and because of that, his history kind of overlooms Spencer, and Spencer finds it harder to get into pilot school and to adapt to that world, and other people make it hard for her as well because of that history. It's so fun, and I just loved the way they described the Krell. It was so creepy, and even if you're not into young adult, if you've read Brandon Sanderson, you're hesitant about the series, I would still start it. I would say the series after this book feels more young adult than this one does, but this is a solid start in a series, and obviously it's fine that it feels young adult because that's the target audience, but I think it's really well done. We're at the finish line, and I am so excited to speak about this book, yet I feel like I'm going to do it no justice. This is a surprising favourite. I went ahead and bought the best looking edition, in my opinion, straight up, without even reading it or trying it. Something just drew me to it, and I'm so glad I did buy it, and I'm so glad I did read it. I'm very impulsive, and I'm very much a mood reader, so I saw this book and I wanted to read it straight away. I think I'd heard about it, I had no interest in it, and then I saw it in Waterstones and I had to have it, and that is The Secret History, and this is the 30th anniversary edition, and it's so beautiful. I'm obsessed. It's where Dark Academia started, apparently. From what I've heard, this is the starting line for Dark Academia. Every other Dark Academia is inspired by this book. Of course I had to read it. I love Dark Academia. That wasn't my intention. I just saw this cover and was like, wow, that's beautiful, I'm gonna buy it. I'm that impulsive, so and it worked, thank God. And what's funny is I've read the Goldfinch by her, or tried to, at one point, and I DNF'd it. I do want to try it again. I was a lot younger back then. Maybe I couldn't appreciate what it was giving me. But The Secret History basically follows a group of college students, and they're in this like elite Greek class that's run by this professor who doesn't just let anyone in, and it's a very small private group of people, and we follow this group of characters and we follow their personalities and their friendships and their relationships and their dynamics together, and that is really all I need. A good strong group of characters, because not a lot plot-wise happened in this book until maybe near the end. I was just drawn to the characters, and I'm a very character-driven person, which I've just watched a video, like I've just watched another booktuber's video, this is going off topic a little, and she was talking about litfic, and I won't lie to you, I didn't know what the definition of litfic was, and apparently it's a very character-driven telling way of books. Now I feel like I need to read every litfic book ever, because I feel like they were written for me, so I will be looking for more litfic after this. Very character-driven book. There is murder, there is mystery, there is drama, even though there is those things, not very plot-driven. And I was obsessed with these characters. Even the characters that you probably should hate. I just love them through and through. I could have followed these characters and been in this story within these pages forever. Like, as soon as I close this book, I wanted to reread it. So I'm going to be doing that in March. I read it initially in March last year, and I've been thinking about it ever since. So I thought a year later should be good enough. So in March I will be rereading this. It's so beautiful. I can't say anything more about it. If you like Dark Academia, just read it. I love it so much. It's funny because I think this was my second, not my second book read, but my second favourite read of the year. I think The Bands of Mourning I read in January, and then I read this in March, and this makes it to the top. An early win. So what we have to do now is talk about my 2024 goals. I'm going to check if my camera's still on. That's 2024 goal, is to not speak for an hour and a half and only have 20-minute footage. I want to start this with saying goals and challenges aren't really for me. They put pressure on me. I end up usually failing at whatever I'm trying to do. So this year I did want to set some goals. I want a daily aim. Like most days I want to wake up and have something to aim for. I don't want it to be pressure. So I've done it in a way that works for me. I love planning. I love tracking. The way I've started doing it. For my reading goals especially, we'll start out with reading goals. Last year and this year I haven't set a number, and that's worked beautifully for me. Last year was the year I read the most books that I've ever read. I read over 100 books. It's the first time I've ever read over 100 books. I will say this, I'm in a bit of a transitional period at the minute, and I've been lucky enough to not have to be in work at the moment and get a feeling of what I want to do next, and this year is the year that I'm going to start putting those things into place. I wanted to say that because I don't want other people to... I don't think numbers matter. That's what I'm trying to say. Numbers don't matter. For me, over 100 books was a goal I've always wanted to reach, I won't lie. But it was more of a thing of, I don't know, it's always been in the back of my mind that I'd just like to reach that, and now I've done it, great. For me, it's how much can I experience storytelling, and like, can I find some favourite stories that will live with me forever? And that's the most important thing. But I'm getting sidetracked. Numbers don't matter to me. I set it to 1 last year. Yes, I'll be tracking what I'm reading, but that's because I want to come back at the end of the year and be like, oh, there was some good books that year, and when did I read this book, and how did I feel about it? Like, I want the data there for that aspect. I don't care if they're short stories, if they're long fantasy stories, if they're mangas. I want to have fun with reading, and that's my full aim here. Long story short, long-winded way to get to this, but I'm going to start out by doing a digital reading journal. That's something I've decided to do because I've always wanted to do a reading journal, and I've tried them in the past, like physically doing my own reading journals. I found that I don't like my art style. I'm just not artistic, if art style is what you can call it. So I decided to buy a digital planner from Etsy, and I use it daily, honestly. I love going to that. Another hobby for me, and I'm really enjoying it. Then from there, because I still want the data to be tracking on my Goodreads account and things like that, I will, at the end of the month, be transferring all the data to places like Goodreads and my social media. So I feel no pressure to like keep up and be checking things, and it all just works nicely for me. 1 book is what I've set on Goodreads, because you have to set a number. However many I get to is however many I get to. Following on from that with my reading goals, I do want to do the 24 in 24 challenge. I've never participated in that yearly challenge before, and I generally stay away from challenges because as soon as I try and read books, like, I don't set TBRs, because as soon as I say they're the books I'm going to read this month, I lose interest. My brain just works that way. I have to be impulsive and I have to mood read. There is a bunch of books that I have that I would like to get round to this year. I think I could do 2 a month, and that would get me 24 by the end of the year. There's little pressure on it, right? Because I'm doing it that way, 2 a month. If I do that in that way, rather than getting to the end of the year and being like, I still have my 24 books that I need to read, we can do it strategically. We can do 2 books a month. I also want to aim to read more young adult. I find that when I like a young adult book, sometimes they just work out so much better than an adult book. They're so much more entertaining, they're so much more fun, they're a bit more addictive. I think I don't give them credit enough, and I think I've been put off them because I've read some that the style just doesn't work for me, and that's okay. But I think there's certain authors that will do young adult in the way that I want them to do. So I do want to seek out more young adult in a way that I think I would really enjoy it. I also want to look into some more lit fic books now, so that's something else. But in general, I just want to get out of my comfort zone a little bit. As I said in my first video, I think there is books in different genres that will work for everyone. I mainly gravitate towards fantasy and thrillers, but I do want to pick up more so romance. I think I also want to try some more historical fiction because it has very rarely worked for me. So I don't want to go so much into historical fiction and be hating on it and knowing it's not for me. But I would like to try a little bit more just to see if I can find some more rare gems. And romance, I do strongly, I want to say, believe there'll be romances out there that will work for me. I just haven't found amazing ones. I do like romance in books, and that's why I believe there'll be romance out there for me, and I do have some favourite romances. I just need to find more, and I need to find out what I like in romances and what puts me off romances, so I can find my little circle of romances, my little group of romances that I can read and enjoy. My last bookish goal is just to keep up content, and I want to get the quality of my content improved. I want to improve the quality of my content here over booktube, on bookstagram. I want to be learning. I want to learn how to take better YouTube videos. I want to learn how to take better bookstagram pictures. I just want to improve my skills, photography, photo editing, video editing, and just be consistent with the content as well. If it's not great to start with, that's fine. Improvement, progress is better than perfection. So yeah. This was a long video, but at least it recorded the full thing, I hope. I haven't checked it in like 10 minutes. Hopefully everything goes smoothly here on out and I can get this edited and up on Friday. But thank you so much for sticking with me. I've had so much fun. I've been looking forward to doing these type of videos since uploading that first video, because that first video, I'm still nervous now, but I was really nervous and I just wanted it out. Whereas now I'm really in the mood and the flow of wanting to bring bookish content and talk about books. If you stuck with me for this long, thank you so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe and all that jazz, and I'll see you next Friday for my next video. Bye. Let me check if I'm still recording. Oh, I am. Whoa. I think I'm getting through these faster as well. Maybe I'm not, but is it still recording? Yes. I think we're alright, you know. We're still recording. I'm just gonna keep doing this because I'm anxious.